Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I know it's been a while since I put a video out. I messed up my back pretty good. I've been feeling pretty bad. But I'm still continuing on with some light work, you know. And I finally got some parts in for our V6 project. I gotta still weld that in, but I finally got the tank in. It finally came in. Still got to weld these Jeep stamps in on the side. But the tank is in. Doing a little fitting on the floor. The body is just about ready for sandblasting. Let's go around this side if I can get through here. Got some parts. I've been working on a spare tire carrier. These bodies don't come with any type of bracing inside for a spare tire. So I got the holes. I got to put the brace in this way in the vertical one so the tire doesn't rip the body off. But tailgate's in fine shape. This is from that original body we got that was junk. But we are just inches away from sandblasting and painting. Got those nice original fenders on there. Let's take a walk around here. These are originals, and they're in fantastic shape. The grill is in good shape. We'll just have to pull the lights out and sandblast that. I think you can see in there I got the battery tray mounted, and I'm just working on the dash a little bit, and windshield, I got a bunch of broken bolts got to come out, but it's pretty clean, and we'll carry on with this. Won't be long before we're in the paint booth with it. So that's the update on that particular one. And we're outside today doing a little engine cleaning, and we'll head out there next. Okay guys, super bright sunlight out here. I hope you can see this okay. Here is Eric's F-head. Just came out of the honing tank, and just got to clean that up, ready to be assembled. There's the head, 3-angle valve job in there, new guides, everything is vacuumed down, and we know everything's good. We got Joey's engine here. Appears to be in okay condition. I'm going to clean it up real good, see what comes out of the cooling jackets and stuff. But appears to be good compared to his transmission transfer case, which is completely full of water, and the gears are so pitted I can't even use them. But, I don't know if you can see in there. I'm trying to get you in there. I think you can see that nice cross hatch. Hope you can see that. The sunlight is so bright, I'm not sure what you're seeing. But I got a very nice cross hatch in there. That'll hold the oil real nice. And finally, I've got a Jeep 258 here. Had a bad crank in it. And I'm not sure which way I'm going with this. I may go with a stock rebuild, or I might put some a little bit of performance into it. I'm not sure. We may put some Chevy valves in the head. I don't know. We'll put a header maybe in a Clifford kit on there. I'm not sure what we're doing. Anybody interested in a 258 build? Let me know. This is an early one. I'm building this for that 86 CJ5 that I have, and I'm building an early motor because I like the 12 counterweight crank. I don't like the 4 counterweight that they switched to in the later ones. So we're gonna go through that 258. If anybody's interested in seeing that, let me know. I don't know how many people are interested in the later engines. You know, the 258s or the 304, the 360, or the 401. Just let me know if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And if we sweep over here, we've been working on the J20 a little bit. I sandblasted the whole frame, put a nice coat of black on it, put epoxy primer on it, and I put gloss black on it. Unfortunately, the transmission did have to come out. I just got some parts laying around here. Transmission had to come out. It's a 727 automatic, and I could not get that thing shifting right. And I don't really like automatics, but I'm keeping it in this truck. We're just doing a basic build on this one. I'm keeping the automatic, and I don't really mess around with those, so that's off being rebuilt. The sun is a killer out here this morning. Rear end, Dana 60, Spartan locker in there, going through the brake system, putting all the brake lines on it and stuff. Here's the front end. Yeah, again, I don't know if you can see any of that. Front end is a Dana 44, Spartan locker in there as well. So we're locked up front and rear. I got some new AVM hubs going on the front. And I'm just chipping away at this little by little. It's going to be a little while before the transmission gets back, so I'm just doing some busy work. Here is a hitch. I'm building a 2-inch receiver hitch for the back. I don't really like anything. There's a couple guys out there making them. I don't really like anything that you can buy. I got some 3/8 plate, and I've got everything sitting here, and this has got to go and get sandblasted before I finish welding. I got some 6010 burned in there. I'm going to sandblast it to clean white metal and then run some 7018. So it's a bigger plate than most. I've got a 4-inch cross tube there, 3/8 wall, and then there's my 2-inch receiver. But I'll show you this a little more as it happens. That's going to bolt to the side of the frame rail and also to the underside of the frame rail. I've got two 5/8 bolts that are going through, and then I kept all the factory frame holes just in case I need to put any brackets back or anything, so that everything will get bolted up through all those factory holes. And then coming soon, I'm going to build a tank, a fuel tank, for this rear section here. Not real happy with that plastic tank. 18 gallons. I'm going to build like a, I don't know, I think it works out to be a 45 or 47 gallon tank. So we're going to build a heavy duty tank for the back here. And again, if anybody's interested in seeing that kind of stuff, just let me know. But right now I got to get busy. Got to get those engines cleaned up, start assembling Eric's engine, and we got some pistons coming in for Joey's engine. I've got some pistons coming in for the 258. We'll start boring those engines next week. So I'll get our hot water washer fired up, and we'll get things happening. Okay guys, here we are back inside after cleaning Eric's motor. And his original crankshaft was in very bad condition. It was not savable. I'll take over here, take a look at this. There's the front thrust area, and that is completely mangled up. So the crank started moving back and forth. Okay, and in doing that, it enlarged all these journals here. These are in horrible shape. So the crank wore terribly. So this was, that was shucking back maybe over a 1/4 inch. And then what it did was it also ruined the rods because it wore the rods. I just got a mess of old parts here. This camshaft was bad too. So it wore, let's put this down. It wore these rods very thin. So basically, the crank is junk. It's not worth welding up every single journal here, and the rods, once they're short like that, excuse me, once they're short like that, there's nothing you can do about that. So we got 4 junk rods, we got a junk crank. So I had another crank, and I sent that out and had it ground, and it cleaned up at 40. So we got 40 oversized bearings here because we ground the crank 40. But let me show you another thing that happened. This is his rear cap. You see that it's really gouged up here. Okay, this was when the crank was moving. You know, bad things were happening. And I don't know if they had too big a head on the clutch bolts, on the flywheel bolts, but you could see how it just ground that. Look at that. It just ground that to nothing. Let me see if I can find a bolt. Okay, this was a bolt that I took out of the crankshaft that held the flywheel on. Okay, that was just, I can't imagine what that must have sounded like. But that bolt head, you can see it's shiny. Look how thin it is. So, a lot of bad stuff was happening on this engine. This doesn't appear to be too much of any trouble. I don't want to change the cap because then we're going to have to line bore it. And that's just a big deal. It's probably not even worth it. But I think this cap is okay. We've got the best gasket in there with the lip facing forward. We got it in there. I've been over this many times. If you use the best gasket on a stock crank, it will leak. The guys that are selling them that says it doesn't leak, I just don't understand how that's working. So we weld and grind every rear main seal surface. So it's much larger, and it fits this seal. The owner of the Best Gasket Company says that once these are out, he's going to make the correct seal. But until then, if you're rebuilding your engine and you want a leak-free rear main, you have to enlarge the rear main seal area. These were made undersize, and they're just not working. So, I've been over that many times. I got many videos on that, but if you need any assistance there, just put a comment below. So we're going to drop the crank in here and throw some plastic gauge on there and just check our bearing clearance before we put any assembly lube on it. Okay guys, there's our piece of plastic gauge on there. It's the green that measures 1 to 3 thousandths. And I've got them. There's one in the middle, and there's one on the end. Now, I usually measure the crank and then measure the bearings, and I do my calculations by dimension. But plastic gauge is a pretty good way to go. Just make sure you don't have any oil or grease or any junk on the crankshaft. And do this dry. We're going to put the caps on, we're going to torque them down. Then we'll come back and we'll match it up to, you've got a scale on the plastic gauge package. We'll match it up to that and we'll check our oil clearance. Okay guys, all the main caps have been torqued down to 75 foot-pounds. And now we're going to pull them out. I don't know how I'm going to be able to show you this, but your paper is marked from 1 to 3 thousandths. So you measure the squeeze plastic gauge, you line this up, and that'll show you your clearance. Let's check this middle guy. It's hard to see, but you can see it squeezed right here. So if I line that up, we've got 1.5 thousandths. That matches up with the 1.5 thousandths line on there. The factory recommends anywhere from 3/10 to 2 9/10 clearance. I think you can see it again in there, squished. And you just line that up. We're just about 1.5, and that's perfect. That's where I like to be, right in the middle there. And remember this. I don't know if I told you, this engine had no oil pressure when it came in. The oil pump was broken. The clearances were way out of sight, and the rods were just smashing around on there, and the crank was thrusting back and forth. So we want to keep everything right in factory specs. We know that the crank right now, all the clearances are right around 1.5 thousandths, and that's perfect. That's where we want to be. So at this point, we'll take the caps off, and this is oil soluble, but I like to just kind of scrape it off with my fingernail. The oil will make that disappear in no time. So we'll take that off. We'll clean these, the caps and the crank, from any of the plastic gauge residue. And then I'll show you some new assembly lube I got. I'm really happy with it, and I want to go get that now. And we'll pull the crank out, and we'll lube the bearings, and put the crank in, put the caps on, torque it down for good. Alright, we're just about ready to set the crank in. We're just going to pre-lube the bearings. And for years, I've been using various different kinds of assembly lube. And basically, they come in a container, and you kind of pour it in there, smash it around with your finger. And I have this new stuff. It's a gel. Try and get you in here. Called Mr. Race Oil, and you can get it from Goodson. They just came out with it, or they just started selling it, and so I grabbed some, and it is a gel. You know, it doesn't spill out of there. A little bit thicker than, say, Vaseline or something. And it's fantastic. And like I say, I don't know anywhere else to get it other than Goodson, and they're good guys over there. I get a lot of my engine rebuilding stuff from them, and they're just tops in the industry. You can watch Dave's Tech Tuesday on YouTube and stuff, and if you're building engines, they're just a great place to deal with. No complaints. I'm not associated with them in any way, and I don't get anything from them. I'm not trying to, you know, plug them because I'm getting stuff from them, but they are a fantastic place to deal with. And you just tell them that Brian from YouTube, the Jeep Builder, sent you. And this stuff won't run. It stays in place. It's wonderful for camshafts. You know how, you know, you're putting a cam in, and the stuff's running all over the place, and you're trying to get it in place before you lose it all. I mean, just look at that stuff go down. It is absolutely fantastic. Put a little bit on our seal. That stuff will stay in place for years. So we're just about ready to set the crank in. And I have the crank sitting over there on the scale, just in case you guys are wondering. An F-head crankshaft. Try and get you in there. F-head crankshaft weighs 47 pounds, looks like it, just in case you're wondering. Pretty sturdy crank for this little engine. There's big 6-cylinder cranks that don't weigh that much. But we're ready to drop it in now. And like I say, that assembly gel is that is my new favorite stuff, and I'll be using that on all my engine builds because it's just so nice. Got our rear main in there. We checked our clearances. Crank is in, and it is silky, silky smooth. So we'll just do the same thing. We'll put some assembly gel on the caps, torque them down to 75 foot-pounds, and we'll be in good shape. Okay, here's our front cap, assembly lube, and on all the bolts we've got our ARP Ultra Torque fastener lube. It's a moly lube, and that'll make sure you get proper torque. And one thing I see a lot of, let me see if you can see this here, you've got two grooves in this here. Now the grooves down here, both of them are toward the front. Don't put this cap in backwards. Make sure your grooves line up with the other half of it. I take a lot of engines apart, and those are backwards, and the bearings are smoked out of there, and the crank is worn real bad. It's just, you just be conscious and make sure you get those lined up right. That's just on the front thrust. On the other ones, the only bad thing you can do on the other ones is turn the cap around and lock your crank up. And I see that too much of the time as well. And that last F head I did, the center bearing was turned around. I don't think it ran too long, and it didn't screw anything up. But when I went to assemble it, I noticed it was backwards. And if you put it in backwards, this kind of tightens the crank up. You don't want that. So just be conscious when you're putting your crank in. There's a lot of stuff to be watching all the time. So we'll finish putting these caps on, and again, I can't say enough about the assembly gel. Anybody putting an engine together, you will love this stuff. It's fantastic, and like I say, the only place I know to get it is from Goodson. So give them a shout, and it'll be your only assembly lube you use now. It's that nice. It's a huge difference. Just make sure your hands are clean when you're putting it on, and that stuff will stay there for a long time. Okay, I just put my rubber dowels in there with a little bit of Right Stuff gasket maker on them, and as you've seen me do plenty of times before, I put this little jig on here, tighten it down, squeeze those down. That causes some hydraulic action in there, and it pushes the RTV into all the little grooves and stuff, so that you won't get any leakage out the back where the cap line is. So the crank is in. We're gonna let it sit like that for now, and when you put your crank in, just make sure you can easily move it and rotate the whole thing without any trouble. The assembly gel is a little bit thicker than the other stuff, so it feels a little bit like it's dragging a little bit more, but it should easily move by hand. At this point, if you have any resistance, investigate what it is, but it should move super smooth like that. And we're going to leave it sit for now. It's getting kind of late today. We're going to let the angle sit overnight, take that off, and we know we got a nice seal back there, and we'll come back on this one tomorrow. So crank is in, and like I say, all the engines are washed. I'm going to take you over and show you what happened on that 6-cylinder engine, and a lot of thrust washer problems, I guess, thrust bearing problems. But let me show you what happened on that 6-cylinder, and we'll put this guy in a bag and we'll leave it for tomorrow. Okay, this is a crank out of that 258, and this is the style I like to use. Is the 12 counterweight crank. So when this came in, the crank was moving back and forth. I didn't know what the problem was. And this is where your thrust bearing is. And if you look right in here, that's probably 100 thousandths deep right there. So this is a mess right here. I was going to weld it and send it out to be ground. I'm not sure I want to do that. It's so deep and so wide. I'm not sure. I might do that. And it needs to be ground anyway. It's scored up pretty good. So I'm going to source another crank. Scat makes a crank, but it's a lightweight crank with the 4 counterweights. I don't know. I might go with the Scat crank. I'm not sure. I got some feelers out for another 12 counterweight crank. And that's what normally I like to use these. They're heavier, they're stronger, I think, and a little bit smoother. So that's what happens. I mean, I'm sure there was some indication that this was a running engine. It was running like this, but it was moving back and forth. You put those crazy heavy clutches on these things, and a lot of times things go bad. But this crank is not salvageable right now, and like I say, I may weld it, but I'm looking for another one right now. So a lot of bad things going on. There's a transmission case for Joey. I've got that CJ3A engine I'm rebuilding, and that area right there. This whole entire transmission and transfer case was packed with white lithium grease. I think it was making quite a bit of noise, and they packed it with grease at some point in its life. Everything is just bad. These gears are so badly pitted in the transfer case. The entire transmission front of the case there, where the got it right here. You hear that? Those are all grooves in there, and this is much thinner than it should be. And with the wrong lube and stuff, it just started grinding the cast iron case away in there. So if you put the cluster gear in there, even with the washers, even with new washers, just kind of it just shucks back and forth. So that case is no good. So transfer case, the case seems fine. It's just the gears. They're deeply pitted. So going down the road, this thing, I mean, those are deep grooves, pits. Going down the road, this thing would make a racket. So I'm gonna grab another case out of my stockpile, and I'm gonna grab a whole transfer case because these gears are ready for the garbage. We are gonna put the advanced adapters Timken bearing kit in here. That's just a good way to go. I do that on most, but sometimes they just come in, and the sins of the past have caught up with them. So a lot of devastation on this bench. Everything just seems to go bad on this bench, but we're making progress, and I'll take you over and show you the L head, what's wrong with that goes with this transmission transfer case. Okay, we're over at the L head, number 4 cylinder. It's just completely eaten away right here. I won't get that out when I deck the block, and it is out of whack. I do have to deck it. So we're gonna do some hand work here. I'll show you an old racer's trick on how to get more power out of an L head. I'll show you what guys used to do back in the day. It's labor intensive, but it's worth saving the block. I don't want to have to source another block or give up another block, but no, 1 is fine, 2 is fine, 3 is getting a little hairy. Number 4, that's just a disaster in there. So I will give up some of my secrets when I show you how we fix this and improve fuel delivery. So that'll be in a future video, but I'll show you how to get some more horsepower out of these guys if you don't mind spending the time doing some handwork. So we're going to call it quits today. There's the head for that that F head I'm putting together now for Eric. Looking good. 3-angle valve job in there, new guides, everything's going to work out nice. But we're going to call it quits on this today, and we'll be back with you shortly, hopefully next week sometime, and we'll continue on. So everybody, hope everybody's doing good out there, and again, like I always say, appreciate you watching, commenting, and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see on what I'm doing right now, and I will continue on with it. Okay, thanks again for watching.